Now I continue today in 1 Timothy 3 and verse number 2. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior. And I've been pointing out the matter of this area of vigilant and sober on the Bright Spot Hour during the days of this week. A man that would be regarded as being a man that is vigilant and would be a man that would be regarded as being watchful. A man that is circumspect. I pointed out it's a man that pays attention. He is of an observing a frame of mind. His outlook. Solomon warns in the book of Proverbs that a wise man foreseeth the evil. He sees the evil in advance. He sees things unfolding and developing. On occasion we use the terminology, I was blindsided by this. This slipped up on me. I was not expecting this or that to happen. The idea of vigilance is to be watchful. We use this term vigil. They say that these people are going to have a prayer vigil for this individual. And I think most of those using the word vigil have no idea what the terminology they're using. We use a lot of language today and have no idea what the definition of those words are. But if we're going to have a prayer vigil, the word vigil means to watch. It means to become devoted to something. It means to observe something fastly, or to observe something steadfastly. So the word vigilance and the word vigilant are derivatives of this. It carries the general attitude or the general idea of watching or being observant. Now we have the same basic thing when we arrive at this word sober. Paul said that the bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife. It's interesting to me that that husband of one wife is the only requirement or criteria we have for the pastor. And yet the area of blamelessness, vigilance, sober-mindedness, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, and on and on and on we go. But we say, well, if his marriage is right, then he qualifies to be our pastor. That's not necessarily so. By sober-mindedness, and I was dealing with this on the program yesterday, the area of being sober or sober-minded carries with it the idea of temperance, the idea of being serious and solemn. A man that is of a sober temperament is a man that is serious-minded. He is solemn. He is grave. He is very calm. The area of soberness carries the idea that a man would not be under the influence of his passions. Now, there are times when a man can be under the influence of his passions in a violent rage. There are other times when a man can be under the control of his passions sexually. A man that is sober-minded, a sober-minded individual, does not fall to the influence of passions. He doesn't fly off the handle. I've known of preachers that lost their churches. They lost their ministries, became severely hindered because they flew mad, quote unquote. I'm using the vernacular now. They flew mad in a business meeting or a deacon's meeting or a church conference. I was told by a member that was there, that we're reaching back 25 years now, 20 years anyway, that a church was in conference, and the church had been called into conference, and the pastor's wife flew mad and got out of her pew and walked up and down the aisle and confronted and accused the individuals, men and women in the church, called them out, pointed their finger at them, called them out. I was in a service more than 2 decades ago, and the thing happened. The pastor was under extreme accusation, and some of the men in the church flew mad and became controlled by their passions, so much so they walked up and down the aisle and falsely accused me of being there to preach for this dear man that was under accusation, not moral accusations. Now they wanted rid of him to bring in their own man. A sober-minded man, I'm not saying that there's not place for a good joke. I'm not saying that there's not place for lightheartedness. I love a good joke, and I love to laugh. I love to laugh. I like humor. But there are some men that are never serious. They don't take anything serious. They don't take themselves seriously. They don't take anybody else seriously. A man that is sober-minded, a man that is of a solemn or a grave temperament, understands that the situation could change. I mean, I may have a disease working in my body right now that will take me out of this life a year from now. I may die in an automobile accident before the year's over. I don't know. But I should be sober-minded enough to recognize that truly my life is as a vapor. It appeareth for a little season and then vanisheth away. A man that is not sober-minded would live today as though there is no tomorrow. On occasion, and I don't want to be misunderstood with what I'm about to say, but occasionally we use this terminology, that man or woman is so heavenly minded they are no earthly good. And I have seen men and women that lived literally as though the rapture was going to take place tomorrow. There's no need to plan for the future. I believe that the rapture is going to take place, and if the rapture takes place today, that is without question the greatest thing that can happen in the life of the born-again believer, and obviously for the dead in Christ, is for the trumpet to sound before midnight tonight. But if the trumpet doesn't sound tonight, what am I going to do tomorrow? And I think sometimes we get ourselves into a mess, M-E-S-S. We make a mess out of our lives, and we start praying for the rapture to bail us out of our credit card debt and our a bad reputation that we have with our creditors, and just a general mess we have made out of life. And we want the Lord to come rapture us out to get us out of this mess. Well, I promise when the rapture takes place, it'll get us out of all of our messes. But a sober-minded man or a sober-minded woman will strive not to get in those messes in the first place. Well, I think one of the reasons that Paul lays down under inspiration that one of the criteria for the bishop, the pastor, is to be sober-minded. When a man begins pastoring a congregation of people, he becomes responsible for leading that flock. And there are members in that congregation that are definitely influenced by his life. I mean, I've been in churches where, it became noticeable if the pastor drove a Lincoln, there'd be a lot of Lincolns in the parking lot. If the pastor drove a Cadillac, there'd be a lot of Cadillacs in the parking lot. The women looked like the pastor's wife. In other words, they dressed themselves and fixed their hair, and the men in the church were dressed like and carried themselves. Their deportment was like the pastor. All men have a measure of influence. Even the gutter down, the man that's in the gutter down on Skid Row has some measure of influence with the people that are around him. And one of the reasons that Paul, under inspiration, lays down this matter of he should be sober is because of the area of influence that he has on the people that attend in his services, the people that are in his church. And the congregation, over the years, you observe, a congregation will become like the pastor. A church will take on the personality of the pastor. So if the pastor takes nothing seriously, laughs and jokes all the time, then that will rub off on and will pass on to the members of his congregation. And that could become a real problem for some of the people in the church. That could get them into business trouble or financial trouble, or various types of difficulty could arise, various kinds of trouble could arise from that, because the pastor is not sober-minded, so there's no reason for the congregation to be sober-minded. The third area here, Paul points out, is of good behavior. A bishop then, number one, must be blameless. Number two, the husband of one wife. Number three, vigilant. Number four, sober. Number five, of good behavior. Now, my time is getting away from me on the program, but this matter of behavior, conduct, there is conduct that Paul identifies in the Scriptures that is conduct becoming, that becometh the saints, that is becoming to the saints. There is some behavior that is totally unbecoming. Now, in this age in which we live, and there are many things in life today and in society that I would to God could be like things were in previous generations and in a bygone era. Forgive me, I'm a relic. I recognize that I'm a relic from another age. For instance, I wear a necktie every day. I wear a necktie to work, to my office every day. My secretary can count on one hand the times that she's seen me in my office at my desk without a necktie on. I understand that I'm a relic from another generation. But this matter of behavior, becoming behavior, behavior that is becoming the office that a man holds, and his behavior and deportment should be a reflection of the office that individual holds. Now, my time has gotten away from me. The Lord willing, on the program tomorrow, the Friday broadcast, I will continue in this line of thought.
Write the Bright Spot Hour at Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 29602.